Hi everyone, it's Stephen Skripek here from TRG Arts. Thank you to all of you for joining us at our next TRG 30 virtual roundtable series. We're about to kick off, and thank you to so many of you that submitted questions in advance of today. There's a lot of volume of questions, particularly around fundraising, membership and programming. And I just want to let you know that Jill and I are planning upcoming sessions to go into these in more detail. And remember that specific questions we will continue to respond to on TRG 30's LinkedIn page. So please do click through the feed there to see if your question has been answered directly. And also you can click the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen to submit your questions today. So once again, welcome to Jill Robinson, our CEO, who's joining us for today's session.
Stephen, thank you so much. And all of you, I'm glad to be with you again at this extraordinary time. Those of you who've joined us before know TRG 30, which I'm broadcasting live today from my home in Colorado, like all of you are watching likely from your homes. TRG 30 is about these things: addressing the urgent things in front of us right now in our organizations and in our communities, anticipating the needs that our staff, our sector and our communities have, and also getting our heads, and I heard it, see it, hear it in your advanced questions this time, getting our heads wrapped around revolution for the eventual evolution of our sector. Pardon that interruption for a moment. And this evolution has in it and built into it a belief that we will come on the other side through this terribly disruptive time as a more resilient and changed for the better arts and cultural sector. You'll remember where and how we were together over the past 2 weeks. The first session that Stephen and I led, we talked about tone. Every week prior to the TRG 30 sessions, Stephen and I and our team are combing the internet, looking at what you are up to and how you are talking about what's in front of you and your situation. And the first week we were together, we said, boy, let's gut check that tone and let's consider how we can move from an internal focus only, understanding that we're all grappling. How can we move tone from internal to external about the patron and what they might be inspired by and faced with? Last week, we introduced, in partnership with our friends at Purple 7 in the UK, the new COVID-19 sector benchmark, which many people are signing up for. Stephen, you're going to tell us and give us an update on that. It will give us a real-time comparative data set about how the sector is faring and how patrons and audiences are engaging or not during this crisis. And in addition, last week, we started to talk about how should we be thinking about the connection long-term with our patrons. All of us are beginning to reconcile that this short-term look is getting longer and is extending into the fall and perhaps summer. So in fact, that's on our minds today. That's on our minds today on your behalf. Selling the future. Activating that database that you have more broadly perhaps than you're thinking today. And even in the face of all of this uncertainty, embracing it and authentically talking about what it means to your organizations and to their participation with you. Stephen, tell us a little bit about the data side. As we will do every TRG 30, we will go to the data.
Of course, thanks, Jill, and thank you to Stuart and the Purple 7 team for moving so fast with this sector benchmark. Here's a first preview of the dashboard that some of you are going to see when you log in tomorrow as we launch the first insights for our COVID-19 sector benchmark. Over 100 of you have signed up to this so far, and we're busy at the moment putting you into benchmark groups and preparing the first insights to put in front of you that will directly correlate with the data that we're going to talk about, not only today, but in upcoming TRG 30 sessions. So the first insights, one of which you can see a preview of here right now, will be around your current ticket sales and revenue for advanced performances, including segment behavior, which we're going to dig into in a bit more detail in a second. A detailed view of your daily ticket sales comparatively to the same time last year, and something that many of you asked for immediately after that session where we gave you that preview, detail around revenue recovery detail and modeling. So the proportion of your donations versus refunds and what we're seeing in your data and how that's comparing to your peers. Our intention with this benchmark is to release new insights each week that we will link that content with you. So each Thursday we'll be releasing additional insights. And here's how you can join. There's a bit of a queue, but Stuart and the team are working through fast. You can go to this link. It will be sent through to you after today. It's free to join, free to sign up to. And as soon as we can, we'll give you access to that dashboard to see your data live in there. But one of the first data points last week that was very stark to us is to see who is currently buying tickets, and one particular group of patrons was shouting out loud and clear, your most loyal patrons, those that have visited at least 3 times historically and have visited at least once within the prior 18 months. And Jill, we've been talking about this data point and what it means.
Yeah, no surprise here that at TRG, we are both delighted, not surprised, and want to continue in reminding you to invest in this group. This is the group. Loyalists are the households and the patrons who are with us and always, and they are with us now. But there's also a group, Stephen, that we talked about isn't. What's the Todd headline here?
Yeah, so this is a slightly different version of a chart we showed last week. The patrons that are responding represent not your whole database, right? They're the customers who've been 3 or more times ever, and at least once in the last 18 months, are currently representing nearly 70% of all the reduced revenue we're taking right now. Last year, that was 54%. And these 3 times or more, that segment typically represents about 43% of our patrons. So we're not reaching, or people aren't buying, over half of our customers are not purchasing right now. So this slide here represents that change, that index change into who's buying and who's not. And you can see very clearly here, that left-hand side, new ticket buyers, they're not purchasing right now. So as you continue to communicate with your database, we need to think about how simple segmentation like this can serve you right now. You're going to see this data in your dashboard. Those of you who are clients of TRG's data center, you're going to get some complimentary counsel shortly about how you can use data center to identify these segments. But think about right now how you can access this data in your ticketing system. But the big question I know you're all asking is what we do with them. How do we get our attention to the rest? How do we change this chart to get people back into buying behavior?
This is the part of the data that is super interesting and to me and us super terrifying. There are a lot of people standing on the sidelines right now, folks. And while you are engaging in all of the right ways with your loyalists, or you probably are. Even yesterday, we received some questions about, should I be launching my subscription or my membership campaign? The answer is absolutely yes. Yes. More to come here, in fact, in detail next week about the ways that we want you to consider innovating around this. But these loyalists are fueling our patron relationships, our revenues. And last week, we hinted at this concept of selling futures. And that's what we're going to go to here. You are right now, though, engaging loyalists. And I just want to remind you and show you some of the things that are happening really well. For instance, with Arts Club Theater in Vancouver, I think I showed this quickly last week. It's an example of moving event activity that had to be suspended or postponed, or a component of it online, this online auction we're seeing with more frequency. This inspired me. Arena staged the Roaring Back Fund. This, again, of course, is directed, would be largely at our loyalists, but the tone here. The tone is assumptive about the fact that we're coming back. Shakespeare's Globe. Donate now. Look at this language. Shakespeare gave us the gift of stories, and stories have never been more important than now. You're selling subscriptions in the ways that we know deliver messages about value. And you're also, like the folks in York at York Theatre Royal, are getting up to 60% of your ticket buyers who've bought in advance to donate their tickets to. So a shout out to a lot of you who are doing a lot of really important and good work with those loyalists. And what we also heard in your questions is, boy, if we had a crystal ball. If we had a crystal ball that would tell us when performances are actually, we're going to be able to do them. When can I book my programming? When will our halls be able to refill and be refueled with the patrons that we miss being in front of, that we were born and organized to perform around? And that is a question, and yet there are many people like these people in Chicago who are patrons of the Grant Park Music Festival, who love classical music and are waiting, like so many of the people in our databases are waiting for that crystal ball, for that information. And it's that group of people that we are becoming obsessed about engaging. And right now, they are not in our museums. They are not buying our inventory. And our question is, how can we take this enormity of patrons and inspire them to participate? And so today we want to advance an approach. One approach that innovates and looks forward to our future. Pointed to it last week. It's this idea of re-engaging our databases and buying futures in the arts with a VIP return orientation. Tone, we will be back. So a question I would ask of you is, how could you imagine inviting and compelling your patrons to invest now and plan for our return that we all know is coming? How can you look at the whole patron? You have membership schemes, subscription offers, philanthropic invitations. This will require segmentation. And if we do this right, there will be a portion of your database who will respond now to this invitation on a single ticket booking basis. How might those suite of benefits surrounding this invitation be stacked up with smartly these other programs? And part of the revolution, if you're a leader, is to look hard at your organization. And we know them. You have silos, we all do. This is the time to bring those silos together and get our conversation and planning around the integration of patrons, and eliminate, do not allow the silos to be rigidly disabling our thinking of all of the patrons that we're trying to invite at this time. So let's talk some more specifics. This is about performance futures, building volume in the patrons that are standing by, and will we know return. It's a new campaign in addition to subscription and membership. Philanthropy, not in lieu of. Targeting is going to be key, and aligning this structure with your current programming scenario. So some of you can imagine, Steve and I think about in the UK, we can imagine pantos being a likely programming initiative.
Yeah.
Others of you may have big blockbuster events that are at the end of the summer or the beginning of the fall. If you have a product like that, you could consider selling actual tickets, premium events, and wrapping experiential benefits around those premium events, and align that, whether they're in hall or other kinds of attractive sort of component parts of that event that could be added to that purchase, that premium experience offer that people buy now for the future. It requires us to have language that acknowledges that we don't have a crystal ball, but that we feel reasonably confident that by November, December, or whatever the date is, that we will be here, and those benefits would be aligned with other patrons. If we don't have product, we don't know when we're returning, then it might be something like selling credit. And Stephen, you said to me, Jill, it's okay that this is a bit more transactional. Let's imagine that if someone invests £50, they might get credit worth 60 or 75 pounds to spend when we know that our season is open. Some kind of match that provides an incentive for me to transact and invest now. But this is not a gift certificate scheme where we hope you'll buy now and not redeem it. This is about engaging patrons now and encouraging and aligning our work so that we get them to join us when we both can be back, when they feel confident being back, and when we have things to offer.
And Jill, as you step through there, I'm imagining how everyone might be reacting to the. It's simple and easy, right, for us to put on the screen. You have a product, you don't have a product, and there's realities around where we're all at right now in the cycle of this. There's questions coming in live right now. When should I go on sale from? When should I refund? Look, there's realities around where we're all at right now. So in the UK, some of you are on sale for autumn or spring 2021. Or you're thinking about going on sale. In the US, many of you are currently focused on subscription renewals. Take stock of where you're at now and look who's not responding right now. And with that in mind, what can you create around that? And yes, you might need to talk to producers, promoters, you might need to have negotiation around it. You might want to think about how you can align staff in the context of the current structures you're operating in right now. But now's the time to get some of these segments to activate.
Exactly. And so here's how. Let's go there. We're suggesting an email ad campaign, leaning in with digital because it can be inexpensive. I don't know if you've noticed this, those of you in this virtual room, but my mailbox is starting to be full of catalogs. Catalogers know that we're stuck at home, and they're using that direct mail to get me to purchase online. So lean in with digital and then protect those direct mail budgets if you have results. Start now. To Stephen's point, we don't have a crystal ball. Start now with a short campaign. Drive urgency that has a deadline or sense of a timeliness around a particular campaign timeline. This allows, though, the world to change again, which it's likely to do. Stephen, you've encouraged clients of yours to think about pricing as it relates to average single ticket prices from the prior year or from a recent season or snapshot. And then we have to stop and measure. We have to stop and measure to ensure that we can see what's happening, that we're getting response rates that we need, the ROI. And then if we are, we can tweak, extend, or relaunch a campaign. Listen, we have an example. We have an example here from the Hudson Valley Shakespeare Festival on their website now, an update to our summer schedule. My video's in the way there. This is their program, Open Air Flex Pass. Look at this language. In this time of uncertainty, both for us and for you, we've developed a new way to dream about summer. We're rolling out this Open Air Flex Pass. When our calendar is confirmed, log into your account and your Flex Pass will be automatically applied to the tickets in your cart. With this pass, you're committing to us, not to a specific night or production, but to our institution, the artists you've grown to love, and the value of theater in our community. Inspire me. Inspire me. Is this going to be right for you? I don't know, but I do know this. It is not business as usual right now. We must innovate. And today, what we want you to do first is check your posture. Look at your website and check the posture of your organization. Some of you look a little bit like you're waiting for all of this to pass, publishing long lists of events that aren't happening, or when we go on to try to inquire about events in the future, this is what we see on your websites. Check your posture. Second, as you launch or support your subscription and membership campaigns, are you treating it as business as usual? It sure looks like you are. There's an opportunity to change language. In fact, we think you must shift. Today, now is the time to do this. Rely on data, assemble your team, plant the seeds now for a new normal. We're here. And beware of certainty. Beware that, especially for those of us in the United States with the president, that we have, I'm unsure that by June we'll be back. It is an uncertain time, but I am certain about this. Now is the time to embrace a belief that if we revolutionize the way we're thinking and acting in ways like this, assembling the right teams, removing hurdles as executives, and if you are a marketing or box office, a person who implements, make a case to protect the resources you need to do the kinds of things that we're talking about here. Trust the data. And this is another thing to be certain about, that our futures will evolve through this time. Stephen, you said that questions are coming in. Let's see what we can address before we need to depart.
Absolutely. Just a reminder, the Q&A button's at the bottom of your screen. If we don't get to you today, the TRG30 LinkedIn network is the place we're going to respond to you. Some really good questions, Jill. I think we've kind of answered this actually in the creation of this product, but there's a couple of questions around non-charitable or commercial profit-led organizations they may not have the same ability to collect donations, or are not seeing donations at the same amount right now, particularly around ticket refunds and exchanges. What advice would we give to those? And a second question I think that we can answer with this, in the London and the West End, and arguably Broadway too, they don't rely on loyalty, right? Yep. So there's volume driving that has to happen there. So if we don't rely on loyalty, how do we focus here?
Well, I think, I don't know, my instinct here is that the advanced purchase idea still absolutely applies. So you still have databases. We have credits that can be offered. I offered a couple of weeks ago my example from Today Ticks, where I bought in advance and they gave me a credit. So what would prevent you from doing what we've proposed? Reaching out to the database of customers that you have and encouraging them to believe in the future of the West End, believe the West End is coming back, believe Broadway is coming back, and encourage me to buy now with some kind of transactional benefit in the future.
Some producers who are anticipating opening their shows as planned are asking for marketing plans focused on short-term campaigns. How can I persuade them to engage in a campaign like this, where there is an emphasis on advanced sales, when we may be in the situation that we might have to cancel more shows, right? It's a risk putting some of this product on sale. It's the uncertainty, which we've got to embrace. But how do we change this dialogue to what potentially could be short-term focus on last-minute flash sales? I think we can see what might happen here.
Yeah, but I wonder if we can't do both and. We are innovating, all of us, in real time right now. The reason to keep coming to these TRG 30s is that together as a sector, we are going to be innovating and adapting. That is our commitment at TRG, to be doing that with you, folding this back in. And so right now, as I provide adaptive counsel to this question, I would say it would have to be both and, right? If we've got a short-term event with some degree of hope that we can market in the short term, certainly we've got to be authentic about what is possible to happen. Could we not do both? Market the show with the print that says we acknowledge that if this show can't go on, here's what we will do. And here's an option: buy the credit, buy futures in, And you can apply those futures to this and other things that we will be opening or marketing as we go. Both and is what I'd say today.
I have an answer to another question around predictions around the timescale. We've all got our own version of the crystal ball right now, but how to create strategies for the predicted scenarios in the mix. And I would just encourage you, Kerry Mesropov, our president, put a great video on here around planning for different scenarios. And in the midst of all of this, now is the time to think about the what ifs. Okay, so we go ahead with a futures ticket scenario with on productions that are on sale in September, October. Well, what if they do get pulled? What impact will that have on us financially? How will that change the communication with our patrons? So we need to create strategies for different scenarios in the mixes, so we're not caught off guard, as many of us were, quite frankly, with the pace of this. And we're not burying our head in the sand around what could happen. We may lose some autumn or fall shows. It may happen. So let's plan for that scenario now and know how we're going to respond to that and have our communication set and ready in a place of relative calm that we're in now.
That's right. And that doesn't just affect the futures offer that we're suggesting you make now, but it affects members and subscribers. And those are campaigns and programs that we want to keep investing in this spring and this summer. So we're going to need to operationalize around these alternative scenarios and then communicate authentically. We have to change our language from business as usual, which is most of what I'm seeing, to language that acknowledges the scenario that we're in now and just speak honestly.
Jill, we often get questions like this, and you know, it's an anonymous attendee, right? Which is not a surprise. But do you have any suggestions where your senior management does have their head buried in the sand and are proceeding business as usual, on how to manage that?
Well, data.
Yeah.
Data. Helps move from emotion to action almost all of the time. So whether that's your own data or, boy, sign up for the COVID sector benchmark, because it will put your data in the context of sector impact. And we at TRG are committed to using our curiosity to mine that data for the things that will deliver the best value to you. So if you've got a specific something where you see a head buried in the sand because I can't get this person to think about this or that, let us know those things, so that if there's a way that data can help get attention around the right things, we're advancing it.
Jill, there's a couple of questions, and you referenced museums and galleries in the midst of this presentation, but museums have a very different business model. How can we apply some of this thinking to our own situation where our doors are closed and we don't have people coming through the door right now?
Yeah, I think it's very, very similar. It's why I included it. And in fact, I think a little easier. While special exhibitions need to be programmed and planned for, your existing collections that stand ready are such a huge asset. So your ability to mobilize in the short term, we've got, the next 2 episodes of TRG 30 planned, and they're in the back of my head as I say this, but you have an ability to whet appetite through online offerings now, maybe gated. And when the time comes that you can open, if you have done the kind of membership and futures, membership is the futures offer in the museum and attraction sector. We want you to continue to invest in a monthly membership, and when you do, you will be put first in the queue, so that when we open as a member, you will be invited to experience what we have to offer first. I think there's direct corollaries here, and actually more simple action when we are able to hit go and open doors again.
I think that's all we've got time for with questions. There's a couple of really great questions, and I assure you will respond to those directly on our LinkedIn group. So please do join that, and you can continue to submit any questions to letstalk@trgarts.com, and our team will respond to you.
Big shout out to my SMU class, who always provides good research for us. This is our next set of dates, and as Stephen said, our virtual network is a place that you can go and be with us, anonymously or not. We're taking all of those questions very seriously, our entire TRG team. It's where we can dialogue directly with you. We look forward to seeing you next week, where we will be talking about new ways, innovative ways to keep those subscriptions and membership and philanthropic asks moving forward. Remember, we need to believe and act like we believe we'll be back. Let's inspire our communities. Let's lead them through. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.